This is Joy News Prime.
From wherever you're watching in the world, this is Ghana's most comprehensive 2 hours of television news, and my name is Israelite. Coming up on Joy News Prime, former Attorney General Martin Amidu accuses government of manipulating Ghana newspaper Abdul Malik Okubako's, however, challenging the attempt to injure the reputation of his protege and is demanding evidence from Martin Amidu. The NPP activist who was stabbed to death has been laid to rest in Kumasi with his family demanding justice.
Ghana is losing out to Ivory Coast as a preferred investment destination in West Africa. Will bring you the details on business.
And a 5-year-old is possibly blinded for life by his mother. We'll tell you why. Also in this bulletin, we'll bring you entertainment, sports, as well as get interactive with you on social media. This bulletin is also available across Europe on ABN television. Stay tuned. Now, our first story. The minority in Parliament says a directive by the local government minister, Collins Dauda, asking assemblies across the country to elect one person amongst them to preside over business is illegal and unconstitutional. Addressing the media in Accra today, the minority warned the minister's directive could have consequences for the decentralization policy and must not be allowed to stand.
It has come to our notice that the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, by a circular, proposed to amend Order 10.7 of the Model Standing Orders of the District, Municipal and Metropolitan Assemblies to enable an assembly to elect one of its members to preside over the assembly if the members are unable to elect a presiding member. We find this attempt to be illegal and unconstitutional. The 1992 Constitution provides in Article 244 that 1. The District Assembly shall have a presiding member who shall be elected by the Assembly from among its members. 2. The presiding member shall be elected by at least 2/3 majority of all the members of the Assembly. And 3. The presiding member shall A. preside over the meeting of the Assembly, and B. perform such other functions as may be prescribed by law. Members of the press, Section 17 of the Local Government Act 1993, Act 462, restates the above constitutional provision, and particularly in subsection 5 says, and I quote, "The presiding member shall convene and preside over all meetings of the Assembly and perform such other functions as may be prescribed by law," unquote. The combined effect of these provisions is that no Assembly meeting can be convened and conducted in the absence of a substantive presiding member. The only exception is where the Secretary to the Assembly, the District Coordinating Director, is empowered by Order 1 of the Standing Orders of the District Assemblies to convene the inaugural meeting at which the presiding member is to be elected.
The International Cocoa Initiative is collaborating and strengthening partnerships with key decentralized government agencies and departments as part of a new strategy to eliminate the worst forms of child labor in cocoa growing communities. The objective is to develop a functional child-centered community policy aimed at reducing child labor to the barest minimum. Executive Director of the International Cocoa Initiative, Nick Withrill, says though Ghana has made some significant strides in reducing child labor, a lot more remains to be done.
The fact is that there are still in Ghana, according to that same survey, 900,000 children working in unacceptable hazardous labour conditions, and similar numbers, a bit more in Côte d'Ivoire. So we have more than 2 million kids who really, in our view, and I think collectively, really should be in school and not working in the field. So the scale of the problem is still huge. And I think the issue is that the things that we know work have not been yet applied at a sufficiently big scale to actually make a dent in the big problem. If we look at the work that we do in communities, we can see progress. We see more kids going to school, we see less kids in child labour, but those solutions have only been applied at a very small scale up until now. So we're calling for a big scale up. Everyone, the governments, the industry, civil society, farmers themselves, co-ops, communities, to get behind this and really push for the next 5 years to make greater progress.
The head of the anti-trafficking unit, Patient Quay, says enforcement is still a major challenge.
For all.
Right, we're moving on to the rest of our stories. And former Attorney General Martin ABK Amidu is accusing government of shielding some corrupt politicians who were allegedly caught on tape in the latest investigative work by undercover reporter Barima Osei. According to Mr. Amidu, government's decision to expose corruption in the judiciary while allegedly covering up supposed wrongdoing on the part of some politicians suggests a deliberate attempt to misdirect the focus of the Ghanaian public. Joy News' Malik Abbas Dabu joins us with some more details from the anti-corruption campaigners' statement. Good evening to you, Malik.
Good evening, Izzy.
Essentially, what is Martin Amidu saying?
Well, he makes a number of allegations. He claims that, in his opinion, there have been instances that the government should have demonstrated a willingness to fight corruption, and the government didn't do that. He cites the example of Anna Ekwetete. He was a state attorney and he was one of the persons who took the decision to pay Woyomi some almost 52 million Ghana cedis as judgment debt. And later it was found out that some 400,000 Ghana cedis had been paid into his wife's account. Martin Amidu's case is the government didn't do anything. In fact, he was transferred to one of the regions to head the AG's department there. His allegation is, if you have judges take 1,000 cedis, 2,000, 5,000, 16,000, and these judges are being removed, when in fact one person's wife received 400,000 from a person the state said defrauded it by false pretenses, and yet this person, nothing is done to the person, then it raises questions whether the government is committed to fighting corruption. But let me just read a bit of what he says so that we can put this discussion in perspective. What nauseates me, and I'm quoting, what nauseates me in the whole judicial corruption scandal as a not-for-profit anti-corruption crusader is the posture of the government through the President and the Attorney General using the results of its commissioned undercover investigations to detract attention from the gargantuan political corruption that has engulfed not only the government but the legislature as well since 2009. First, the Attorney General, an ex-officio member of the Judicial Council, hypocritically and opportunistically calls upon the Chief Justice to restore the integrity of the judiciary and declares that the culprits will be investigated and prosecuted by her office. The President, a note, he says, the President plays holier than thou and chips in later to tell the whole world that his government will ensure that those found culpable are dealt with. In the euphoria of emotion and public reaction to the judicial scandal expose, the President and the Attorney General might have forgotten the saying that one must remove the moth in one's eye before removing the speck in another's. The President and his Attorney General may be controlling the prosecutorial process of this nation for the time being, but that does not make the saying that justice is might or might is justice right in purposefully using judicial corruption to hide political corruption in any form. And he says, and this will be my last one on this, this so-called social democratic government has failed to retrieve the over $51 million, 51 million Ghana cedis and 47 million euros corruptly paid to an NDC financier and other surrogates ordered by the Supreme Court to be refunded to the Republic, but has shamelessly and unlawfully commissioned agents to divert attention from gargantuan political corruption.
Quite critical.
Quite critical. quite critical. And as I pointed out, he was talking about the 51 million that was paid to Woyomi, and he says the Supreme Court has said that that contract that formed the basis for Woyomi's claim to the state was itself void ab initio. It was unlawful and therefore was deemed not to have taken place. So on what basis was he taking the money? The Supreme Court ordered that the money should be retrieved. And we know that in the criminal case brought against Woyomi himself said that he was going to pay the money. Martin Amidi says the state hasn't collected the money. Remember that Martin Amidi also went to court in the Waterville case, and the Supreme Court again awarded him a favorable judgment and ordered the state to take steps to retrieve this 47 million euros from Waterville. That money too has not been collected.
Right. Now, in trying to make his point, he also ropes in Anas, who put together the investigations, and is suggesting that Anas is allowing himself to be used.
Well, his suggestion is this whole investigation was commissioned. That's what his honest belief is, that it was commissioned, and the manner it was done was to kind of cover up the real corruption, which in his opinion is political corruption. Let me just read a bit of what he said about the commissioning of this investigation, so that we will all understand exactly what Martin Amidi means when he says that Anas's work was commissioned. The government ought to be congratulated. Okay, let me read this one. I have said that the undercover investigations that led to the judicial corruption expose was commissioned, and these are his words, commissioned by the government of Ghana, and has its genesis in the acrimonious relationship between the government and the judiciary on assumption of power in 2009. And let's just give some background to this. We do know that when the NDC came into office in 2009, it had alleged, whilst in opposition, that the Kufuor government was corrupt, and pointed out a number of actions that had been taken that they believed was...
So they hold a number of individuals before.
They hold a number of individuals. The Attorney General at the time, Betty Mode, at a forum said that we shall jail them. Eventually, a lot of the people were acquitted and discharged. We know about the Ghana.50 case, Tarzan and Kojom Pieni. We know about former Information Minister Stephen Asamoah Boateng.
And all these necessitate the statement,
the
that
infamous
statement, there are different ways to kill.
Yes, there are many ways of killing a cat, and this was said by the no mean person but the national chairman of the NDC at the time, Dr. Kobina, because at the time when these allegations were made, the judiciary's position was provide proof. If you allege that the judiciary is corrupt, provide proof. And we know about those 4 lawyers who themselves had made allegations that the judiciary was corrupt. They were hauled before the Judicial Council. I'm talking about Dr. Raymond Atuguba. I'm talking about the late Larry Bimi. I'm talking about Abraham Amaliba. And we know of one of their legal team members who was also involved in these comments. They were alleged to have made reckless comments and asked to provide proof. Martin Amidi's view is there were discussions in government to find a way of producing this proof and presenting it before the judiciary so that a decision could be taken. He says in this article, what he did not know was that government was going to commission a corruptionpreneur, anti-corruptionpreneur. That's how he calls Anas in this article. Anti-corruptionpreneur as an agent to collate evidence that will be used against the judiciary. To be fair, he says that he was elated when this evidence was found. I think it is not fair to say that he condemned Anas. He has said in this article, he was elated when the evidence was collated and presented before the judiciary so that action could be taken.
No, so but he's criticizing him. He's criticizing the fact that essentially the work, he was commissioned to do the work, and yet he's putting it out as if he came out independently to conduct the investigations. Now, I'll let you hold on for a bit. I've been speaking to the managing editor of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, Malik Kubaku, who has rubbished claims by the former Attorney General Martin Amidu that investigative journalist Anas Anas may not have been entirely truthful about his recent expose on corruption in the judiciary. The former AG, himself a well-known anti-corruption crusader, is suggesting the recent judicial expose, which has led to the suspension of some judges, was commissioned by government, which he says is manipulating the evidence to its political advantage. Mr. Baku, however, says Mr. Amidu has gotten it all wrong.
To the aspects that concern Anas and Tiger Eye, because there are other elements of that piece which I have no problem with, but those dealing with Anas and Tiger Eye with particular emphasis on the judicial corruption saga. I think the former Attorney General, who is a very good friend of mine, is a long-standing comrade, actually got it all wrong. And I have indicated that to him personally.
Which aspects in particular do you say?
The substantive points. He makes the point about the project was commissioned by government. That's an obvious untruth. If he challenges, then it's incumbent on him to provide us with something of evidential value to back up his claim.
Well, and he says that he's a former interior minister, he's a former attorney general. He suggests that it was during his time that this project was commissioned.
That's unfortunate. He's a man of integrity. And I'm wondering, just because you were in office in 2009 to 2011 will constitute sufficient grounds for you to begin to speculate, and I use the word adversely, he's speculating that whatever they may have discussed whilst in office constitutes a proof of his assertion today. Can't be. It's unsustainable. He left office when? 2011. This project began 2013 and ended 2015. It has absolutely no connection with government. But you see, let's be very honest with ourselves. Any time there had been government involvement or sponsorship or commissioning with Anas and Tiger Eye on any project, Anas had not hidden that fact, both in radio and TV interviews as well as in the audiovisual documentaries that are put out there. The acknowledgement is made relative to the fact that government had something to do with this. Anytime he had collaboration with state agencies, and this didn't start with the Mills or Mahama administration, it began under the Kufuor administration. He had always indicated it publicly. Sometimes if you watch those documentaries, you see the acknowledgements, and the radio and TV interviews he's had, he puts it out there.
Are you saying that Anas didn't get any support at all from the government agencies in all this, in this particular judicial corruption expose?
Government didn't know about it. Government had no knowledge about it.
How about the Chief Justice?
No, the Chief Justice also was just presented with the evidence when the time occasioned it, when it became necessary to provide the Chief Justice with the evidence. And now let me find out what is being contested, what is in contention. Is it that there's a suspicion that there was government or higher judicial authority involvement, or is the evidence that have been produced to indicate that corruption exists in the judiciary?
Right.
Where is the bone of contention?
It moves from, the article moves on, or Mr. Amidu moves on from the point where he says that this thing was commissioned by government or commissioned under the, Mills administration.
Which is a lie. I'm sorry, a lie is too strong. Say an obvious untruth. But for my respect for Martin Amidu and the fact that I have known him for a very long time, I would have said this should be coming from an uninitiated mind, somebody who's hugely inexperienced, but he's not. He's a very well organized, disciplined, experienced politician and lawyer. And as I said, I have known him for a very long time, so this is a shocker to me. But let me read to you excerpts of the official position of Tiger Eye relative to this selectivity challenge.
Which information Anas has posted on his Facebook page?
Yes, he says alleged selectivity. Here, Mr. Amidu alleges that there is evidence that some judges were also offered and accepted bribes but are still working because we have not submitted any petition to the president due to video recording hitches. He claims that we have notified the Chief Justice and Judicial Council of this. This is contrived falsehood, and we say so for the following reasons. First, and for Mr. Amidu's information, we submitted all 500 or so hours of our filming to the authorities unedited. If Mr. Amidu wants to watch and verify that, he can apply to the relevant authorities to arrange a viewing with his technical experts. Second, in the instance where when we lost or were unable to procure footage, we still submitted the names of the affected judges, almost 20 of them, to the authorities under the cover of a separate letter with a request that they should still be investigated. We have not made these names public because that might jeopardize investigations that we have requested. And you know, recently, one of the judges was purged of the charge.
Because they said the video didn't quite implicate.
Because the video, the quality of the video couldn't match the transcripts that have been submitted. So once the video, it was virtually like failure of technology. You did a recording, all right, you submitted a petition relative to that judge. But when they went through it, it didn't work. And the Tiger has accepted that in good faith. But they think that when the clerk, who was the conduit, gets his chance to be interrogated, that issue may come back. So at this stage, well, they've accepted a verdict.
Right, so that was Kuku Baku Jr. Now, he during that interview brought up the issue about the fact that Tiger Eye or Anas Arme Anas has actually reacted to what Martin Amidu has had to say. Absolutely. Now, Martin Amidu has also reacted to the Tiger Eye release.
Yes,
you have the details.
And this is what he said. He says, I have read what is supposed to be a response to my statement. That's the statement he issued today. He says that he has a sequel to what the statement he issued today. And in fact, I can say he called me in the morning and told me that he had a sequel to today's statement. He had actually called me to tell me he had sent me a statement. I told him I had received it and I was working on it. So he said he has a second statement which is focusing on Tiger Eye, but he didn't think it was prudent to issue that statement alongside this one. So when Anas responded, he said, okay, I have a sequel to this statement, but I will publish it at a later date. And he said, there's a sequel to my statement devoted entirely to an alleged company called Tiger Eye, on which I wrote a separate statement simultaneously. He says that when that is published, thereafter I will answer to the response of Tiger Eye should it still insist. And he says that some of the issues that Tiger Eye responded to, if Anas had read the footnote in his article, those things should not have come up. And this is what he says: the response regrettably appears to have been written without reading the footnotes to my statement as an intellectually minded person would have done. I stand by everything contained in my statement of today on the attempt to suppress political corruption with the commissioned judicial corruption investigations. Further proof is contained in the sequel and Tiger Eye, or whatever it calls itself, should be patient to read it first, and then we can have a useful discussion. That's what he says. Essentially,
we're not done with this, and Martin Amidu is likely to come back again.
We haven't seen the last of this. He says, in the interim, I am grateful for the response. The principle I am fighting against is the use of paid private government agents in an Orwellian Big Brother fashion, contrary to the Constitution of Ghana. So this is not the last of this. I believe that when that one too comes, as Martin Amidu is noted for, it's going to contain controversial matters that will generate further discussions.
Right.
I believe that Anas may also respond to that sequel as well.
Now, one other person who has reacted to all of this is a lawyer for some of the judges implicated in the judicial corruption scandal, John Indebugre. He is pointing to Martin Amidu's claims about Anas Remea and Anas's investigations as a possible vindication of his clients. John Indebugre says Mr. Amidu's assertion that some of the judges implicated in the corruption scandal are yet to be named is a lifeline for his clients.
This idea in just 2013, and he's now challenging Martin Amidu to come out with any evidence that suggests that this piece was indeed commissioned by government of Ghana.
Yes, so I am a third party, just as you are. So that's why I say that it is Martin Amidu's word against the word of the representatives of Tiger IPI.
But you are on record to have said that you think that the claims being made by Martin Amidu will lead us to some sort of truth, will bring some truth to this whole piece. I mean, this investigative piece that's been contested now.
Yes, you know, and I explained that. The part that excites me, as far as the cases that we are handling, are concerned is where he says that some other judges and judicial office holders were also investigated, and yet the results relating to them has been suppressed. That gives us a lifeline, doesn't it? But what is the reason why you investigated 20 judges and you decided to damn 18 of them and you leave 2? You must explain.
In Anaz's response, he says that indeed he encountered some challenges with some of the footage, which about 20 of the judges, but he also goes to mention the fact that he submitted the names of these 20 judges to the Chief Justice for them to be investigated. So it's not as if, also the claims, he says that the claims that are being made by Martin Amidu are not true. Because
I have no problem, confessing to my ignorance of journalistic language. I don't understand what he means by footage.
The word he uses in his piece is video. Alternatively, you can choose to use footage, but video also means footage.
Yes, but what difficulties did he have? Are we not entitled to know? Are we not entitled to know? Why is it that he's keeping those 20, secret?
Right, so everybody else, Malik is still here with me in the studio. Everybody else wants to take a piece of it.
Absolutely.
There are those who are using it against others, those who are also using it against for their own purposes. And as you said, we're having here the last of this.
We haven't.
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Malik. And Malik is our online editor, my Joy Online editor. We're taking a break at this point, but there's more coming up on Joy News Prime. Please stay tuned. Right, so it's time now for business, and Abigail Adumakwenchi is here. Good evening to you, Abigail.
Good evening, Israel. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. How about you?
I'm well, by grace.
Right, so the news is that Ivory Coast is doing a lot better than us?
Well, looks like investors prefer Ivory Coast to Ghana. Looks with all the issues coming up.
I didn't know that we're the gateway to West Africa.
Well, that's how we pride ourselves, but I'm wondering, with all the issues that we've gone through as an economy, it should affect us somehow, but I'm still hopeful.
We're down but not out, though. That much I can say.
Oh yeah.
We're going to bounce
Well,
back.
GIPC also is saying that this is still a destination for business. So,
right. Give us the details, please.
Definitely. All right. So Ghana always prides itself as the best place for doing business in West Africa. This is underpinned by the political stability the country has enjoyed, even though in terms of market size, it cannot compete with Nigeria. However, it looks like Ivory Coast may spoil the party for Ghana. George Yafi has more.
Some firms that Joy Business has engaged, their action to relocate part of their business to Ivory Coast has been influenced by the rising cost of doing business in Ghana, which has been compounded by the current energy crisis, rising interest rates, and even difficulties in getting access to credit. There are reports that fresh fruit exporter Blue Skies has also indicated that it could soon move to Ivory Coast if the current situation does not improve anytime soon. Joy Business is learning that majority of these businesses that are working to move to Ivory Coast are in the commodity trading business. But what is doing the trick for Ivory Coast, especially for a country that has just come out of war? Well, it looks like the strong economic growth, a fairly stable currency, which is interestingly supported by the French government, and what some are calling a business-friendly tax system. But for some, this development is very interesting, because the recent World Bank Doing Business report, overall, Ghana is far ahead in terms of a country that is good to do business. The report, for instance, ranks Ghana 114 compared to Ivory Coast 142 out of 189 countries ranked. However, when it comes to starting a business, Côte d'Ivoire is far ahead, the rank of 46 compared to Ghana's rank of 102. But a source close to government has told Joy Business that they expect the situation to improve for local businesses from next year, based on the fact that the current energy crisis should be over from next month.
Meanwhile, the country's chief investments promoter Mao Natreba tells Joy Business, although they acknowledge the development in Ivory Coast, her outfit is focused on improving Ghana's situation.
to do is to be very explicit about the kinds of opportunities that are available. There are very specific projects, not just the public-private partnerships, but there are projects that have been identified that are private sector to private sector. Those are the specifics that we present to the international business community. We also give them information about the legal and regulatory environment. They are well aware of our tax code and the benefits of accessing some supports to start your business utilizing the existing tax code. They are aware of our legislation in relation to strategic investors. So we have tried to carve out a difference, even in the challenging times, in the experience the investor has. And so as a center, what we've tried to do is to change the experience that the investor is having, so that even if they are looking at the current economics, they are also aware of the medium to long term. And for many of the investments that we're looking at now, a lot of them are taking a view of how to roll out over the next 12, 24, 48 months. And in that time frame, looking at some of the systems and the structures that are being put in place to bring back the fiscal controls that we need to reestablish the confidence that is needed by the business community. A lot of investors feel quite confident that we do have the capacity to attain the level of stability that will give them comfort.
Finance Minister Setekwe has hinted that though a lot is being done to manage forests in order to feel the impact of the falling crude oil prices, the situation will affect expenditure for the 2016 budget.
At the moment, our liberalization is assisted by the fact that prices are low. But we as a nation know the impact of commodity prices. In fact, we are in an IMF program primarily because of the disruption in crude supplies from the West African gas pipeline, but above all, the simultaneous fall in prices of gold, cocoa, and crude oil, which led us to trim, within 3 months of presenting last year's budget, an estimate of 4.5 billion Ghana cedis expected from the industry was trimmed to about 2.3 billion. This is the fiscal impact of the global environment that was painted, for us. It is huge. And for as long as there hasn't been a recovery, this year's budget would have to contend with the falling crude oil price. But it also means that the industry has to be efficient.
Instituting some innovative policies to stabilize the economy appears to be what is on the minds of some businesses and economists ahead of the 2016 budget. Next year's budget is expected to be presented to Parliament this Friday. For some of the economists and businesses, their concerns are based on the fact that current measures have not been well targeted to get the desired results. Chief Executive of the Private Enterprise Federation, Osei Asare, says the 2016 budget must come up with measures to improve access to credit for businesses.
Well, we normally don't do expectations because we try not to read the mindset of the Minister of Finance. But what we're always looking at, we have some consultations, some discussions as to how the private sector businesses who are owed by government, that government will pay them, because it's causing the non-performing assets at the banks, and it's causing the banks also to be faltering. So, and one thing is, if government is going to borrow, and which we know that they would at all costs, they should stay at the capital markets instead of going to the universal banks where the private sector also have access. This way to allow a lot more room for private sector to be able to gain some access to finance, and also for the banks to be able to work with the private sector instead of having a default-free public service client who is paying through the nose at all costs because they are desperate to create the funding that they need to pay the debt service that they are required to do. So we think that maybe the budget should look at certain specifics. How do we support private sector? And this keyword support doesn't mean that we're looking for protection. We're looking for support in the sense that we are failing, and if we fail, and that's the correlation that I don't think government gets. If private sector fails, they don't become profitable, they don't pay taxes, government doesn't get the revenue. So let's look at it from the reverse. How do we get private sector to pay additional revenue? I know they're going to come with some taxes. You can tax all you want. If I don't make money, you cannot get it.
At this point, we want to know what is happening on the stock market and, of course, the commodity and currency markets. And my colleague John Amwako joins me with the latest on those markets. John, take us away.
Thank you very much, Abigail. I mean, we want to look at how your stocks are performing on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Probably maybe later on we'll be looking at the performance of it at the various African markets. But today we'll be looking at it from the Ghana Stock Exchange. Actually, if you look at what we have here, as of last week, we have certain equities actually doing a lot more, making the market quite volatile for investors. Obviously, we do know for a fact that the market has not been doing that well over the period of time, returning an average of over 13% for the financial stocks, and the CI, which is the composite index, that the total value of the market also doing something close to about 14.5%. But then what's happening is that for today, Goil FML, that's the Farm Milk and GCB, has been doing quite well, returning almost close to about 0.77% to investors. Farm Milk doing almost about 6.8% to investors, and also 27% to investors of GCB Bank. That is exactly what is happening on the Ghana Stock Exchange. It's been quite fantastic for some equities, especially the beverages companies, but for the financial stock, we are not seeing that much from them. So sorry to investors who are into these particular the financial services companies. But then on the other side of it, we are seeing some commodities retaining some negative growth. But then whenever we say negative growth in commodities market, or like say, let's say the Ghana Stock Exchange, then we are looking at something specific, because this is the time investors are to be actually to enter the market. For example, we're looking at Benzo oil palm plantation doing something close to about 14.47%. Okay, deducting from investors' capital means that if you had actually invested, say, 100 Ghana in Benzo oil palm plantation, you'll be losing something close to about 14.47% currently. But the point is that it gives investors the opportunity to also enter the market as prices are very low. Let's look at EcoBank Ghana, which is also deducting about 6.67% from investors' capital. Standard Chartered Bank doing almost about 18 basis point deduction from investors' capital. These are some marginal deductions, but in the collective sense, we are looking at something to the tune of almost about 31% from the financial stocks, and then 14.75% from the total market, which is the composite index of the market. So that's how exactly the market has been performing over the week. Today being the first day of the week, we are not expecting that market did not really happen, but tomorrow we're expecting the market to do quite better as we go along. And actually looking at the currencies today, the cedi lost to the dollar, the British pound, and the euro respectively. But then there's something happening, in the Chinese market. If you look at it, on this particular table that we have here, the cedi or the Chinese yuan gained some 16 basis points against the Chinese yuan, which is quite significant. But then there's one thing we will notice for a fact that China has actually been facing some difficulties. They devalued their currency over the period. They are going through some crisis. As a matter of fact, when we saw the numbers from last week, they are experiencing some dwindling GDP. Their exports are also dwindling. At the moment, we should be seeing some depreciation of the Chinese yuan against the cedi, but instead we are seeing the opposite rather. This is exactly what we are looking at. On the other side of the story, commodities are also declining. Cocoa, gold, and that of coffee not doing that well. So going forward, we know very well for a fact that by Friday the finance minister will be reading the budget to Ghanaians. Right. And most of the things that we're looking at for is the revenue generation capacity of our country. Yeah. And what are we doing? With these commodities going down, we should pray for our country. I think it shall be well.
Sure. Thank you so much, John Amwako, with the details there. That'll be all for business. My name is Abigail Adumakonchiza. Lai comes back with more in News Tuesday.
Watching Joy News Prime now to the rest of our stories. The NPP activist who was stabbed to death at Soase has been buried in Kumasi. His mother called on the security agencies to work hard to apprehend his killers and ensure that justice is done.
Bakar Siddiq was stabbed to death on Friday at the Asawase constituency office of the NPP. He was part of agitating youth demanding answers from the constituency chairman for allegedly supporting pro-Afoko protests in Accra. His traumatized mother, Olivia Koto, spoke to Joy News on the pain and emptiness his death has caused.
His death has left a big vacuum in the family. I cherished him a lot because he was my firstborn. I'll forever remember him. It is with pain I bid him farewell today. I want the police to quickly investigate the case. The perpetrators must not go scot-free. Allah is my provider.
Ashanti Regional NPP Chairman Bernard Siako pledged the commitment of the party to help the police resolve the crime. Chairman Untumi called on supporters to remain steadfast in this moment of crisis within the opposition party.
As regional chairman of the NPP, I won't allow this case die like any others. A life has been lost and we need to find the killers. Please bear with us. Show how faithful you are to the NPP and keep calm.
Meanwhile, the Regional Police Command says investigation into the killing of Sadiq is devoid of partisan or tribal concern. DCOP Kofi Boachi told the media at a news conference that investigations are under the supervision of the Regional Crime Officer.
I repeat, this is a mega investigation, devoid of any partisan, tribal, or any sectional consideration. Therefore, we would like people to allow the police to do their work. We don't know any faction. We don't know any political party. All that we know is that somebody has been killed. Our question is, who killed him? What weapon was used to kill him? Was the killing unlawful?
One Dunia alias Muhammadu has been identified as the killer of Abubakar Sadiq.
Well, President John Dramani Mahama has condemned the recent violence that has rocked the opposition New Patriotic Party, which led to the death of Abubakar Sadiq in the Asawasi constituency. He stated that there is no place in the country's politics for this kind of violence, adding no amount of political power is worth shedding a drop of the blood of any single Ghanaian.
These things that are happening, acid bath, it's wrong. And I've asked I told the police to pursue justice to its final conclusion. And then recently another supporter was stabbed. It's not acceptable. And I've asked the police to investigate and find those who did it and bring them to book. There is no place in our politics for this kind of violence. No amount of political power is worth shedding the drop of blood of any single Ghanaian. We cannot, politics is not a life and death struggle. Politics is live and let live. Because this country belongs to all of us. It doesn't belong to one group of people. I don't want our victory to be diminished. I mean, after 2016, they'll say, oh, it's because our party was not at full strength, we had this infighting. So I'm appealing to the MPP, resolve these issues so that you don't want to go and face Man United and Rooney is not there, who are not there. And Ferguson is not the coach, because when you beat them, it will be, oh, our top strikers were not there, and because Alex Ferguson has left, now the team is not this thing. We want the MPP in such good shape that when we trounce them, they'll realize that yes, NDC is the party of choice. NDC is a party that stands for the Ghanaian people. People of Ghana, we pray.
President John Mahama has appointed Commissioner of Police John Kudalo as Acting Inspector General of Police. He takes over from Mohammed Al-Hassan, whose accumulated leave began at 10 a.m. Monday. COP Kudalo, before his appointment as IGP, was Director of Operations at the Ghana Police Service. We're taking a break now. We'll bring you international news when we come back. A 5-year-old boy who lives in Amasamang in Greater Accra has possibly been blinded for life. This is after his mother stabbed his eyes out in a fit of rage, claiming the boy is not her son. Joy FM's morning show host Kojo Yansing has been following the story and interacted with this boy.
We heard the story through some colleagues of ours who were quite alarmed at such a horrifying occurrence. Apparently, this all happened while the boy's father was out of town. He's a carpenter, so he travels for work occasionally. And while he was out of town, the boy's mother, who is known to be a particularly active prayer person, during one of her prayer sessions, suddenly stopped, turned and attacked her son, jumped on him, pushed him onto the ground, and took a piece of a broken plastic plate and started stabbing him repeatedly in the face with it. Of course, the boy tried to protect himself, and so she broke both of his arms in order to subdue him so she could continue stabbing him. And the boy kept crying, "Mommy, why are you doing this to me?" And her answer was, "You're not my child. You're not my child."
So, where's this boy's mother now? What's her situation?
Well, when the father came back and realized what had happened, he first took her to Pantang, because I suppose he suspected some sort of medical condition, a mental condition. So they took her, examined her, did some tests, and then asked him whether he wanted her committed. Now, at the time, he was concerned because he would have to keep looking after his son in hospital and also make time to look after the mother, and he was worried he wouldn't be able to do both effectively. So he asked if the woman's family would send someone to stay with her at the hospital at Pantang. They said no, they would rather come and take her away from the hospital. So that is what happened. They came and took her to the Brong-Ahafo region, where she is currently being treated at a prayer camp.
And this is a woman who has never shown signs of any sort of mental disorder. As you say, she was a prayer warrior, right?
Well, the young boy's parents had been married for 9 years, and the father reports that such a thing has never happened. He is convinced that this is all spiritual. He feels that at some point while she was praying, she may have been overtaken by some spirit which caused her to act in this manner.
How has the family relationship been affected?
Well, when I went out to meet them, you could tell that there is a lot of strain on the poor man. The boy appears to be doing better. He seems more lively. He understands what has happened to him, but he still is able to be cheerful and responsive. But when you talk to him about what his mother did, he becomes very subdued, and you can tell that he has a bit of a phobia now.
Right, so very, very touching story. We hope that this boy finds some help. I'm playing that track, or that track is being played. Guess who's back?
Yeah, hello. Did you miss me?
Oh, I did. I did a lot.
I missed you too.
Yeah, so good to have you.
Great.
Lovely
it's nice
outfit.
to be back.
Lovely outfit.
Thank you very much.
The blues.
Popping, yeah. I love this blue.
Yeah.
Right,
what's coming up on GNI?
Coming up on GNI, how much is too much when it comes to paying for a meal? And what value will you place on food at any eatery?
Money is not the problem here. That's why I work. So if I want to eat, I eat what I want. I don't eat what I see.
We will be showing you how the menu of the latest 5-star hotel in town has Ghanaians raging on social media. Also, your comments on the sad story of a 5-year-old boy whose mother stabbed him blind. And a couple gets down the best way they know how. All these coming up within the hour with me, Ifwakwa Harrison. I will be right back shortly with the interactive segment. Back to you, Israel.
Well, thank you very much, Ifwa. And certainly we would have a JN Interactive coming up in about 30 minutes. We're taking a break at this point. Again, when we come back, we're bringing you sports, we're bringing you entertainment. Please don't go away. You're watching Joy News Prime Time now for a recap of our top stories. Former Attorney General Martin Amido accuses government of manipulating recent corruption to injure the reputation of his protege and is demanding evidence from Martin Amido. The NPP activist who was stabbed to death has been laid to rest in Kumasi, with his family demanding justice. And a 5-year-old boy is possibly blinded for life by his mother. You know, in other news, the National Communications Authority and the Ghana.Revenue Authority are engaged in a fierce turf war over who has the right to monitor the revenue flow of telecom operators in the country. As it stands, Suba Info Solutions is supposed to do the monitoring, but the National Communications Authority says they have no license to do so and have written a letter to the company to cease all operations on this front. However, the Ghana.Revenue Authority says the NCA has no authority to terminate this contract. Our telecoms correspondent Samuel Dowuna has been following the story.
It started way back sometime in 2009. I don't want to go into the details. And that's right. NCA and GIA have been battling over who has got the locals, to do this job. But then what has brought this fresh, brought the freshness of this issue again is just recently NCA wrote a letter to Suba asking them to cease operations on 12th of November. So this is just building up to 12th of November because they have asked them to cease operations on the 12th of November. And then just when the NCA letter got to them on the 4th of November, GRA also wrote a letter to the telecoms companies and to Suba telling them that they should go ahead and continue what they are doing. Suba should keep monitoring them, and the telcos were warned that if they disconnect Suba, they are going to be fined as per the communications tax law. Yeah. So GRA is sort of like saying ignore the NCA because according to them, what Suba is doing is a revenue assurance job, which is under the purview of the GRA authority of the Ghana.Revenue Authority. But NCA is also making the point that international, this is in respect to the international coordination, and that one is under the purview of the NCA. So, and the tax component is supposed to be under GRA.
So why can't the two agencies work together to strike out where each one's work finishes and the other continues?
Which is where me as a Ghanaian, that's what I'm thinking about. Why can't we collaborate? But you see, the point is that NCA thought that work is supposed to be done by a licensed operator. So they went in for this whole policy of the interconnect clearinghouse, where they actually licensed, and this process began. And guess what? Suba actually bid for the license. So
and they were not successful.
So there and then you know that they knew that we needed a license to do XYZ. But what happened was that just when the ICH was about to take off, Kofi Kwatin and some other people took the ICH to court. I suspect that we might be going to court because Attorney General has actually given NCA the green light and said that go ahead and let this thing, get this thing over with.
I do apologize for the loss of audio there, but back to our story. Government's plan to turn around the fortunes of the National Electricity Distributor ECJ so far attracted interest from 26 local and foreign entities. The expression of interest announced on September 30 this year will see a private player take over the Electricity Company of Ghana and manage, operate and invest in it for about 20 years under the Millennium Challenge Cooperation Compact signed with the U.S. government in August 2014. Millennium Development Authority Chief Executive Engineer Rasafo told Joy News at an editors forum in Accra, ECG's suitors include 10 local companies and 14 foreign ones. 2 others have both foreign and local owners.
Well, the feedback has been very good. I'm happy to say that so far we have received 26 companies expressing interest. Out of these, 10 are from local companies, 2 are from local and foreign companies, and there are 14 from foreign companies, making a total of 26. But the expression of interest have not yet closed, and we believe that we'll have more, as we continue to receive them.
Now, the companies that have expressed interest so far, from your initial assessment, what do they look like? Do they look like significant, serious companies?
Indeed, they are quite significant. I will not mention names at this time, but we have received expression of interest from major companies who are interested or who are operating transactions of the nature that we expect to have even within ECG concession.
How excited are you about the fact that we have some local companies also expressing interest?
Well, we are very excited because, as you know, the ECG concession arrangement has a requirement that there should be local participation both at the ownership and operational level. And so we are very happy that local companies are also participating, and we are also hoping that if any of them also will want to collaborate with other companies, whether local or foreign, to enhance their strength, that will make them even stronger to be able to compete in the way forward.
The Ghana National Petroleum Company says it will help complete the burns unit at the Kolubu Teaching Hospital. Joining Zuzhan Odame reported last week the facility is still under lock, though it was inaugurated in 2010. The JNPC says its decision to support the burns unit was taken in June following an appeal by officials for the provision of an ultra-modern intensive care unit at the center. An account has already been established for release of funds towards the project. The rate of survival of patients is expected to increase from 40 to 90% according to the center. We're taking a break now. Entertainment is next.
Entertainment news is brought to you by
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Our time now for entertainment. Miss G is here. Good evening to you, Miss G.
Good evening, Israel. I love this red tie.
You do? I've been wanting it in a while. I felt like
it's beautiful.
Today. Thank you. Thank
it's
you.
a red Monday for you, right?
Yeah. Against my cufflinks and everything else.
Okay.
All right. We're starting with the weekend entertainment. Apparently, Miss Ghana, what all went down.
Yes.
You were there?
No, I wasn't there.
Okay.
I wasn't there. You know, Miss Ghana had a dilemma of whether they would have to retain KD as the presenter or the host for the event, and finally they settled on his cousin KOD. You know the issue about KKD, and so they couldn't have him as the host, so they settled on his brother or cousin KOD. So he was the host for this year's Miss Ghana, and it was.
Is that to suggest that's it for KKD?
Well,
I mean, I strongly feel that he was going to recover from all that had happened. But if Miss Ghana isn't going to give him the right to host,
well, it could just be for this year. Maybe next year he will return as the main host for the event. But Delali Kemevo was the one who emerged winner. She beat 20 other ladies to win this year's crown. Let's see excerpts from the event.
A big strong man to rock my body, and if he's ugly, I don't mind. You put your body in, and I won't let you down.
I'm honored. I'm so excited. You have no idea. They should expect a good representative, somebody who is beautiful and somebody who is ready to win Miss World and bring home that crown.
Our best has been up to 3, the 3rd position. Do you think you can go past the 3?
Yes.
Right, so congratulations to her, Miss Ghana 2015. I mean, but there has been all this controversy with Miss Ghana and one person winning and the crown being taken from her. I hope all that has been sorted as far as this one is concerned.
Yes, and she's going to be representing Ghana in China very soon. I think it's the 18th. She's going to go to China to represent Ghana at this year's Miss World event. So I'm sure with her, there are no issues yet.
Right. CC Chum, gospel musician. Is she also talking about whether you need some special, powers, or is she intending to resign from?
Not at all.
Or take a break from
Not
gospel
at all.
music?
You know how we think that every slow song that is gospel is worship. We tend to think that so long as it's a slow song, then it's a worship song. She has been doing gospel a while, and she's a pastor's wife as well. So she's trying to tell the difference between what is a worship song and what is not. That's basically what Sisi Chum is.
So she has a definition.
Yes.
Somebody is singing a prayer song or asking something from God, that sort of song, or trying to tell God maybe he's having a problem, he's tired and whatever, is not a worship song. Worship songs are the songs that we sing to glorify God, to give him thanks, whatever he has done for us. Even if he hasn't done anything, at least we have life, we are breathing. We have to thank him for that. That is worship songs.
Right. I saw her performance recently at a gospel concert. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that gospel concert. And she came over recently to the office. I took a show with her.
Oh, really?
So I have a selfie with her.
Okay, I should see that. You didn't tell me about that one.
I'll show that to you sometime later.
Okay.
Now, Joy at the Mall. Over the weekend, over the past few weekends, we've been having so much fun.
Yeah.
We've been taking joy to the mall. And it's been some great fun.
Yes, of course. Now, Joy FM started at the West Hills Mall, and then it went to the Junction Mall. And this weekend, I saw you. I saw your pictures. You were at the Achimota Mall.
Retail center. It was a lot of fun. We had loads of fun.
So.
And we're giving giveaways. People brought in stuff. There were companies there who brought stuff that they wanted us to give it away to our listeners and people who had come to the place. And it was so much fun, and people also came there to show their dance moves. And okay, now you think you can dance, or you and Francisca and the rest last week they were really clean.
Okay, that robot. I think dance like a robot.
I'm not gonna talk about that. There were these dance moves. You should have seen the people who came to the mall to dance.
So
and I'm not talking about the ones showing on screen, Lexis Bill
and Kofi Lane.
No.
Oh, really?
People really came to dance, and they danced really good.
I see.
Oh, there was this particular young girl who came over there. Oh my, I was just blown away.
Wow.
I was blown away. Okay, but Lexisville and Kofi Lane, they're not doing that with their dance moves. Kofi Lane, okay, I know Kofi Lane has some skills. I'll give it to him. He is.
Really? I thought Lexus did a better job, if you ask me.
Kofi Lane.
Oh, it's just like you. He also dances like a robot.
Who says I dance like a robot?
Francisca said live on TV that your dance moves are like. She says this. I said you want to prove it wrong,
She hasn't seen me dance. One day I'll prove you guys.
Okay, let's see you dance.
Not today. Let's talk about Davido.
Okay, so Davido's 23rd birthday is on the 21st of this month. Now he starts, spoiling himself already. He got himself a gift, and guess what? It's an Audi R8 supercar. Yes, that's what he got himself ahead of his 23rd birthday, this 21st of November.
That's money. Isn't Davido the guy whose parents are already rich?
Yes, that's the Omo Baba Olowo. That's what he calls himself, OBO, Omo Baba Olowo. So the son of a rich man. That's what that means. So he got himself that car.
And he's also added to his wealth. So I mean,
and the car magazine ranks that 2015 Audi as a supercar. That's how it's ranked by Car Magazine. Yes.
Supercar. I mean, obviously you can see it's a lovely car.
It is a lovely car.
And I'm sure it must run
for a 23-year-old.
And the guy's so young. He's so young. He's 23 years.
23 years. He's turning 23 on the 21st of this month.
Wow. Wow. All right. Nice car. When I grow up, I want to buy one.
Like when you're 23?
Yeah, when I'm 23.
I know.
I'm gonna buy one.
I know. But let's talk about Adele. When she released that song, Hello, everybody was talking about. I told you about the fact that Vivo went wild.
She paid,
yes. And then now she granted BBC television her first television performance after she released the song. Let's take a look. Alright, so that's it. But the good thing about this song is that Joe Thomas fell so much in love with it that he did a cover for the song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, R&B singer Joe Thomas. You know, we haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah.
And then he pops up with a cover for this Hello song, and I think it was classic.
I love to listen to it.
Yes, we have it. He dedicated his new album, Purpose, to his fans, talking about the fact that all the bad he's done, flouting the laws and all that, they should just accept the fact that he's human, and that's about it.
Is that to suggest that he's not going to do anything bad anymore?
Hopefully.
He's not going to be naughty anymore.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Anyway. All right, so that's it for entertainment today.
Thank you very much, Ms. G, for coming through.
Thank you, Israel.
Right.
But don't dance like a robot.
It's now time for sports, and no, I'm not turning to anybody, I'm turning to myself. I'm the guy with a big S on my chest. Time now, and we're starting with the CAF Champions League, where Ghanaian quartet have there's athletics in doping, and athletics in doping never seems to be going away. WADA Commission wants Russia banned. It says Russia should be banned from athletics competition. The World Anti-Doping Agency Commission report has recommended. WADA's independent commission examined allegations of doping, cover-ups and extortion in Russian athletics, which also implicated the IAAF, the sports world governing body. It also wants 5 athletes and 5 coaches to get lifetime doping bans. The report also identified systemic failures in the IAAF that prevent an effective anti-doping program.
Findings then this afternoon: Russian athletes should be banned from all competition until Russia cleans up its act on anti-doping. The Russian government is accused of complicity in doping and cover-ups. The 2012 London Olympics were sabotaged by allowing doped Russian athletes to compete. A testing laboratory in Moscow destroyed 1,417 samples. And the Commission recommends lifetime bans for 5 Russian athletes and 5 Russian coaches. They include the winners of the gold and bronze medals in the women's 800 metres at London 2012.